Recorded live from the mats of Radical MMA in New York City. The Martial Culture Podcast. Your source for in-depth combat sports and martial arts insights with Coach Renee Dreyfus and Matt Peters. Ring the bell and let's get it on.
Hello. Welcome. We got another episode of the Martial Culture Podcast. We missed last week because Renee was off being a good husband.
I had a great time. It was an architectural tour around New York City on a boat, and we hit the major, famous architectural sites, and it was nice. It was Columbus Day, so
beautiful.
Yeah.
Indigenous Peoples Day, actually.
Yes, exactly. Indigenous Peoples Day, right?
So, but a lot has happened in the last week and a half.
A lot,
so much. Yes.
Wait, what?
What?
I've been out of the loop. Were there any big fights lately? I don't know.
Not really.
No.
There's some coming up, though. I lost a bet.
Yes!
But I feel like I still won because Habib won.
Yes.
In a very fantastic fashion.
He did win.
He made him tap.
And the first thing I thought when he won, it was like, yes, I get to tase Matt now.
I love how I'm the first thing you think of when
I
people are beating
was
each
the
other.
first. You know, it's funny, but I used to never understand betting, and now that I bet with you, it's like I understand why people bet. It makes it so much more fun to watch sports.
Yeah, I understand why people don't bet. Or continue to bet, because you're going to win eventually. I know it.
Right. No, and it's the adrenaline rush for sure. And addictive, you know?
It was really bittersweet because I was watching the fight, and when he won, I was like, yeah, awesome, he beat fucking McGregor, and then, oh, man. And then I get a text 5 minutes later.
Not even 5
seconds.
Seconds later, yeah, I know. I had my phone in my hand ready to text you.
I'm sure you did.
Because I knew, going back over the fight, I knew he was going to kill him in the fourth round when I saw the way he came in. He didn't even sit on a stool for one of the rounds.
No?
He didn't even sit on a stool. He's just sitting there talking. And but let's go over the fight. It was a really interesting fight, and there's a lot that happened in that fight. A lot of good, a lot of bad. And not talking after the fight. I'm talking specifically between those 4 rounds that were really problematic. The cheating. I mean, that was
McGregor was all over the place.
Oh my God! And if you look closely, there's a couple articles saying, oh, he put his fingers in a glove, he did this. He actually punches Khabib in the balls to grab his shorts. Mm-hmm. Like he punches his fist in and grabs his shorts to stop a knee. I mean, it's a blow and a short grab. 2 things at once. Yeah. and fingered the gloves, grabbed the fence, kneed him in the head from side control, which is actually a kind of dangerous move.
Then an elbow right to the back of the head.
Yes. And what did Herb Dean do?
Nothing.
He
told him to stop.
Right. And
for one of the things, I think.
Yeah. And I understand, in the middle of a fight, it's hard to say, but when it was so consistent and so egregious. And, honestly, this is what McGregor is. He's not a martial artist. Someone I like, someone like George St. Pierre would go down on a shield in an honorable fashion. Mm-hmm. That's not McGregor. McGregor's like, I will do everything I can to keep this hype train going and keep my ego intact, including being the consistently dirtiest fighter I've seen. I mean, I've seen 1 or 2 dirty moves, like Li Jiangling, who eye gouged the other fighter. Mm. But an entire fight consistent, we haven't seen that since Gilbert Yvel, and that was 20 years ago. Who was, basically banned from MMA because he was so dirty. Mm-hmm. This was one of the dirtiest fights I've ever seen from McGregor. It was disgusting and consistent. And you can see in every single round after the first where he knew he was in trouble. He's like, I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm going to cheat. If I have to cheat, I don't care. I'm going to do what I have to do.
Yeah. Not too many people are talking about it.
No, I know. Which is really disturbing.
Overshadowed by all the other stuff.
Exactly. But
still valid.
It was terrible. Now, Khabib was really looking for body control. And at every single moment, McGregor was trying to, especially fingers in the glove, trying to disrupt that body, grabbing the fence, trying to disrupt that control. And he knew he was drowning. He was absolutely drowning. And which just goes to show that, I wouldn't say so much that McGregor was a paper tiger, but he, that there was definitely a hype train around him that shows that he is quite lacking in certain aspects of the game. Mm-hmm. Now, so, for sure, fantastic striker and actually very good takedown defense. You got to give this guy credit. it didn't look so great in this fight, but he had some good moments of takedown defense early on, and in other fights too. And he's a great fighter. I hate to say it. He is a great fighter in certain elements, but he needs to work on other dimensions. And you know, the star of the hour, Dylan Dennis, who Dylan Dennis is not the person he should be working with. You know, this is a person who's not going to prepare you for that level of competition. This is not. And you know, that's why he was just so overwhelmed. You're not training with the right people. You're probably not training in the right way either. Because Dylan Dennis does not know how to train the correct way. He just doesn't have the experience in the MMA world. You have to get someone he should have called up Randy Couture and said, Randy, what do I have to do to stop someone like you who's a little bit more my size? You know, he should have called up someone like that. He says, I am a smother ground, Tito Ortiz. You know, those old school smother ground and pound. That's really what Khabib's style is.
Yeah. I was surprised that they stood up as much as they did. I mean, they were exchanging strikes. And then that's kind of wheelhouse. Right.
And I actually I'm not so surprised because Khabib is a man who wanted to get the job done. And he knew, he's like, if I just shoot in blind, then I'm going to get sprawled out. So I have to make him fear my hands. I have to make him fear my hands and fear my shot. So if McGregor fears the punching, his hands will come up a little bit and the shot becomes easier. And you see over in the rounds, over and over again. But, you know, it goes down. And I want to talk about something, you know, a little bit side on if we get time today. But I had this kind of experience with someone who comes from, again, the combatives, like street fight world, and says, you know, there's no reason to train MMA because MMA fighters in the street, you know, don't fight like MMA fighters. So MMA is not street fighting. And this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But anyway, I want to talk about that. But I want to show you that all this analysis of, you know, because if you go to the pre-fight, I posted some of the pre-fight analysis of McGregor's footwork and his angles and this and that. Everybody's talking about this and that. And you know what Khabib beat him with? A good jab. That's it. The first punch you learn. He stood in it, walked him down, kept his hands up like Nate Diaz did, and just popped that jab. And McGregor had to respect it. You just, you know, nothing beats the ABCs. Even at the highest level fight, the biggest fight of our time, one of the highest level fights promoted in MMA, not obviously McGregor Mayweather was bigger, but, you know, in MMA, this is a really big fight. When I was coming here downstairs at the lobby, they were talking about it just now.
Wow.
A week later, they're they're just talking. They're pulling up the fight, and not just they weren't not just the riot, but the whole thing. Yeah. And you know, one of the biggest fights. What does it win by? The very first punch you ever learn in boxing, the jab. Just the simple keep your chin down because Khabib used to never did, and jab, walking around jab, make him fear the jab, and then he started bobbing, weaving, doing other stuff because we felt confident with that jab. And the same thing went 10 years ago. George St. Pierre, he's like, my shots are going to get really easy if I have a really good jab. And so, you know, Javier Mendez, who is Khabib's trainer, is no striking slouch. And McGregor holds his front hand down a little bit, pop that jab, that hand comes up. There you go. And it was a combination of great takedowns and a very good use of the jab. Yeah. Basic boxing.
It was a great fight.
Yeah.
I was watching the whole thing. I didn't look away.
Yeah. No, very exciting fight.
Yeah.
A little bit competitive, more competitive in the first round than I thought. People are saying that, but obviously Khabib won it. But people are saying that the second round was dominant, and people are saying that the third round, you know, was more McGregor. And I want to say that it really wasn't it. What Khabib was doing was recharging, because, you know, he was getting ready to ramp up for the finish. And I mean, I knew it. He was like, all right, he's going in. He's going to recharge those muscles and finish. And what really bothered me towards the end is he you know, Khabib broke McGregor, which didn't bother me. McGregor didn't even fight. He was so exhausted and so beaten down. He went out a little bit like a chump. And I hate to say that because, you know, I really don't like disrespecting fighters. But he just didn't even fight that choke. He didn't even fight it.
It didn't even look like it was down that well at the beginning. Like, he could have got out of that.
In the beginning, it was. I have to look at it again, but I think you're right. I have to look at it again, but I think in the beginning it wasn't quite as tight at the end. In the end, the last picture I thought it was really tight. But I you know, I have to watch it again. But I think you're right. But he didn't even fight it. He didn't fight it. He just mentally broke. And in our last podcast, I said, could McGregor get in Khabib's head? And the answer was not until the end of the fight. Like he pushed it to some corner of his brain and then it exploded out.
Yeah.
But in the fight, it was the other way around. Khabib was just all over McGregor, and anything McGregor tried to do, he just stomped it. And then the little bully crawled up and died. And which is a wonderful thing. I have a lot of respect for certain things McGregor does, but I just don't have a respect for him as a person. And I certainly think he's a unidimensional fighter, and he was definitely overrated, which I've always said. He's overrated, and when someone comes out like this, this is Chad Mendes McGregor all over again, with Chad Mendes having a good camp. Chad Mendes took that fight, but one thing McGregor did, which is really interesting, was try to use certain positions to slither out. And I understand what he's trying to do. John Kavanaugh was on Joe Rogan kind of talking about it, where they were like, we're not going to try to get up. We're going to try to slither out and not use energy. It completely failed, but it was an interesting attempt at efficiency. In the very first round, you kind of see him do it where he gets his legs caught and he's just kind of sitting against the cage and just moving his shoulders and not really trying to explode up. That was interesting. And I respect that because, the whole idea is try to be efficient and fight with efficiency, but he was technically doing it wrong. I mean, he was trying the right thing in the wrong way. And he has to, when you do that kind of thing, you have to engage more levers. And when your back is a cage, you're kind of sitting and moving. It was the right idea, but he had to engage more levers. It was interesting that he was really trying to slither out, but which he did try to do against Chad Mendes too, but it didn't work. It didn't work. He needed to train with people on a higher level to prepare him for that.
So does Conor McGregor go the same way as every other failed UFC champion, the WWE?
I don't know. I think everybody was saying that he would retire after this, but when he has so much money, I don't know. I think he was so broken after that fight. He was so sitting. Do you see him sitting in the corner?
He's
just
a
broken.
sad little boy.
I don't think he wants to go back there. And there's a whole crop of guys because when he became champion, there was a lot of injuries and people not who could challenge him weren't up to play. Eddie Alvarez, I respect him, but he's just not. Was not a very strong champion. No disrespect. There were just a lot of guys that that McGregor, not only by his own fault, but he just didn't face because they were injured or what have you, right? Yeah. Now that's not the case. He's got a line of guys ready to tear him apart. And also, now that he's been defeated, at his weight class, they're like, oh, we could break him.
Yeah.
We can break him. Once people see that you're not invincible anymore and they see your strategy,
I wonder, he definitely would still be a draw.
Yeah,
because he would bring the attention, but does he want to continue down the path of being a phony draw? Because it was a good fight, but it was
one-sided, very one-sided. Yeah.
So I don't know if I would pay for him to be a main event again.
I would
unless
see
it was promoted the right way.
Right. He but I don't know. Bullies, when they get exposed, they go away. So
I think the first phone call he got when he turned his phone on was from Vince McMahon because he would do amazing in WWE. He's got that. Sure. He's got that mentality.
Yeah.
But this is not a fake fighting podcast.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think he'd do WWE because he's already really wealthy.
Yeah, he doesn't need the money, and that's a lot of work.
Yeah, and it really destroys your body. So more than MMA. So why would he do it? And also he'd probably have to shoot up steroids because he's for a guy he's small.
Maybe he could just be like a face, like he can just talk shit, but not actually fight.
Yeah, wasn't there? Was it Mayweather or some other boxer did that for a while? He would show up to the pro wrestling, but he would never actually do pro wrestling.
Mike Tyson did it a couple times.
Oh, really?
He went to WWE and
just talk.
Never fought.
Yeah.
Donald Trump also went to WWE. But we won't go down that road. I heard that I don't have verified sources, but I heard that Khabib was calling out Mayweather.
Oh no, I didn't hear that.
Have you heard anything about that?
No, I just the issue right now is that because of the brawl, and this is my take on it. I don't want to spend that much time on it because if you're so surprised about that brawl, but you watch the fight, you're a hypocrite. Mm-hmm. If you're so like, oh my God, that was so terrible. Honestly, Conor McGregor should not be in the UFC because he did something criminal.
Yeah.
Once you open up that floodgate and you allow that, like, you know, that to pass, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
And
you can't punish Khabib.
Yeah,
and not punish McGregor.
It's just stupid. You know, now
it's too late now.
Yeah, it's too late now. And also, I'm not saying Khabib, you know, should get a pass either. But what I'm saying is, you know, look, this is a circus already that you just added to it. And, you know, after Dylan Dennis, who is just one of my least favorite people in the world, you know, he's just, you know, just disgusting trash talker. He kind of deserves it. And you just talk crap like that. And you could tell that the tension all those months. And, you know, for our last podcast, I listened to a lot of what Conor McGregor said to Khabib in those, you know, in those did you listen to some of it? It was just terrible. It was just terrible. It was terrible. And I was like, oh my God. And he just put it in the side of his brain. And right after the fight, he just exploded. Yeah. All that tension, all that. And, you know, generally speaking, Khabib, if you look at his past fights, he's a great sportsman. He goes over and almost every fight, he hugs his opponents. He doesn't, like, you know, go crazy on him, trash talk. So this is just an aberration because of the nature of the circumstance. The UFC created a circus, and Khabib became part of it. And that's it. And they're both
wound up and then exploded.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, also, if you put two animals in a cage and you think it's not a zoo, you're wrong. Like, you people are, you know, silly. Now, I personally, and this is, you know, we talk to, you know, a lot of segments of the martial arts community here. And like said before, a lot of people, including our old guest, you know, Chris Romulo, don't like the UFC because of that razzle-dazzle hype train. And I don't particularly like it. But, you know, that has been part of MMA and Vale Tudo forever because fighting attracts both good characters and bad. It just does.
We heard that when Gilson was
right.
here.
Exactly. The big riots in Rio and you know, so it's fighting attracts honorable people and dishonorable people, and that's a fact. Look at, you know, you have on one side you have Damian Maia and Lyoto Machida and George St. Pierre and all these guys and Marcel Garcia who fought MMA once. All these guys Jacare as well, who are just really, you know, and DJ, you know, Demetrius Johnson also put in there. Just great, nice people who are just, you know, great role models and people you would respect and love to hang out with and wouldn't mind having your kid look up to. And then on the other side, you have Chael Sonnen and Colby Covington and, you know, Conor McGregor, who you're like, you just love to hate. and or legitimate people like who are really bad, like really bad guys like Gilbert Yvel, who, you know, eye gouge people and blinded people, Gerard Gordeau, who blinded Yuki Nakai for life in a Vale Tudo fight. Like legitimately really bad guys. And and the UFC fighter from England who became a bank robber. Shoot, I forgot his name. He became a bank robber and, like, you know, was in prison now for life. And
what about War Machine? That guy.
And War Machine, yes, of course, right, exactly. Yeah. That's another example, right? I forgot that one. And there's, you know, for every, you know, honestly, in the fight game, for every War Machine we know about, there's 100 we don't.
I mean, people get into combat sports.
Right.
I mean, there's some they want to fight. It's a violent.
It's a violent
sport.
game. Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, that these people have an outlet that has some allows them their darkest side of their personality to get a vent and get that out rather than join a gang is maybe not a bad thing. Who knows? Now that we certain people look at it and use that and look up to it and think it's a good thing is wrong. Now this is my problem with WWF. Is because WWF is all the razzle dazzle. It's all the idiocy. And people they eat that up. So it's not the violence in the cage was way more intense and brutal than just Khabib jumping over the head fence. And Khabib didn't actually hit Dylan. Like he tried it and then Dylan hit him and that was it. And it was great. So there was actually, in terms of actual violence, on the violence scale, it was 0 to 10. It was a 0.001. So what happened in the cage is way more violent. So what was that out? What we did is we broke these social norms, and that's what people don't like. But the problem is the Donald Trumps of the world, you know, the pro wrestling of the world breaks those social norms. That's what gives them their popularity. And so it's just, I think it's kind of hypocritical. But for me personally, I don't enjoy that. And if people do, I can't really comment on it. It's always been a part of the fight game. Always has. Mm-hmm. I don't like it. I don't think we should respect it or elevate it. But it will always be there because it's a part of our human nature. Right. Unfortunately.
I was surprised that on the UFC, the pay-per-view, they pulled the cameras back. They didn't show it. Like, as soon as they saw it get crazy, they pulled back.
Right.
And I was expecting the opposite, but it's kind of nice that they didn't play into it.
I think, you know, the team that's in the UFC now is still mostly the production team. The team that was there during the Zuffa reign. I mean, it's a couple different guys here and there. Goldie's not there, but the camera crew in the back. And the Zuffa time was a time where they really tried to sanitize MMA and make it like NBA. Mm-hmm. But then again, NBA, you know, has these fights all the time. And I remember, I don't know how many years ago, but there was this huge riot. The guy goes in the stands and starts beating up a fan, and you know, like it's
Ron
not
Artest.
like I'm sorry,
Ron Artest. I think.
Was that the name? Yeah. And then you've seen it in every sport where they break the norm. So whatever. However, they were trying to sanitize MMA, and I think, you know, that's our natural. When MMA started, and I'm kind of like, you know, one of the early day guys, we were always saying what's good for the sport, because back then it was not even on pay-per-view. You couldn't. I remember it was pulled from pay-per-view. This was in the late 90s, and we're like, how do we in this tiny community grow the sport? And whenever we did something, like, is this good for the sport? Is it bad? Is it good for the sport? Is it bad? And, you know, will this help the sport grow? And now that the sport's grown, everybody's like, whatever, dude. But there's still some people who've been there a long time. We're like, I don't know if this is good for the sport. They're still there. So I think that one of those people are like, this is not a good look. Let's pull it back. This is not a good look. But I guarantee footage of this will be played over and over again for their rematch.
Yeah, phones, cameras, everything.
All the time. The UFC is going to milk this for every single penny it's worth. Like, I was disgusted to see the attack in Brooklyn being played.
Yeah.
I mean, that was disgusting. That was already disgusting. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, you should not play that. That should not be part of the pre-fight, you know, stuff. Mm-hmm. But, you know, so you open the doors to the gates of the circus, and even a little, and you think then when Khabib kicks the door open, or Conor McGregor kicks the door open even further, you complain, you're a bunch of hypocrites. Mm-hmm. But then again, you know, I have to agree with Chris Romulo, who was, you know, he talked about it. He doesn't even watch UFC because he's like, I refuse to support this. I have to understand that's a very honorable position. But it's definitely, I don't know, I'm conflicted because I don't like what they do, but it's a place for that energy, as long as we don't elevate that energy, you know? Mm-hmm. And there's always, you know, for every Conor McGregor, there's always a Demetrius Johnson, you know? And I think those guys actually outweigh the bad guys. And it's sort of like a struggle for our own souls as martial artists, you know? I talked about this in our Hero's Journey podcast. Most people come to martial arts broken in some way, you know? Like, they're messed up. And a lot of times it could be they're not just messed up with insecurities or whatever, it could be just kind of violent people, and it learns self-control. Mm-hmm. But not everybody does. So the martial arts itself, including the traditional martial arts, is supposed to be like so emotionally superior. There's a whole lot of guys who are real jerks there, out of control, bad guys. So at every element of martial arts is a struggle for your soul. Are you going to be a jerk? Are you going to be an a-hole? Or are you going to be something more productive and a positive member of society?
Well, that brings up my favorite a-hole, who's back. No, not you. John Jones is back.
Oh, right.
I'm so excited. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's like 2 months away. But I'm so excited.
No, and you know what?
The fight has been announced.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
I hope he stays away from the drugs, and we actually see a fight.
Right. You know, as I understood, the reason why his suspension was cut short was because actually they proved without a doubt that it was a tainted substance that he took. Like, he took some protein powder and it had some in. So you know what? I mean, you know, he's caught for cocaine and all these other things. But this last drug test, the positive one, he wasn't a cheater, because they proved without a doubt, at least as far as I know, that he just took a supplement and it had something in it that he didn't think it had in it,
Yeah.
and
That's
it was
great.
And you know what? That's happened to a lot of fighters, including fighters I know, where they just go to GNC.
Well, USADA they've really widened the amount of substances that are illegal.
Right. But it's also like, when you buy stuff at GNC, it says it has this and this and this in it, but a lot of times it has other stuff too.
It's made in a factory in the basement of somebody's apartment, so who knows what's really in
right.
it.
You just got to watch what you're doing. And it's irresponsible for him to take that, and but your career shouldn't be derailed for 6 years because you bought something at GNC. And,
Why did it take so long?
Yeah, well, because he tested positive before, for other stuff. So, it's serious. It's a serious charge. So I think it's legit. You know,
to go through the.
Anyway, go ahead. Yeah, but you're excited that he's going to fight.
I'm excited he's back.
Yeah,
I've seen his
Me
training
too.
videos and things. He's a big boy.
I'm a hypocrite because I hate everything he does out of the cage. But technically, I learn from every single time he fights. I really hope he fights DC again.
He's been
at heavyweight.
pretty clean
I hope
for a
he
while.
fights DC at heavyweight.
At heavyweight?
Because DC's coming up fight is a joke.
Yeah,
It's a total joke.
Yeah, Derek Lewis, who he won against.
No, he's my favorite. Like I'm gonna.
He's outside the ring. He's funny as hell.
Hilarious. Have you seen some of the memes with him?
No, not recently.
Okay, so there's a picture of him and he's in his fight shorts, or not in his fight shorts, in his underwear, and then there's fmidways coming out of the underwear. He's like, my balls are hot. For those who don't know, let's say he took his shorts midway through after the interview, midway through the interview after the fight. He took his shorts. Which, did you see the fight? It was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen.
It was two giants just like hugging each other. It was so.
Oh no, but he lost every single exchange, not round, every single exchange, and the fight was about to be stopped maybe 4 or 5 times, and he didn't do anything. He was exhausted, and then with one punch, he knocks him out with 10 seconds left.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was. It was hilarious.
I loved Joe Rogan trying to keep his composure as he's interviewing him. It's like, why'd you take your shorts off? My balls are hot. And he has to continue the interview. And then he starts talking about Donald Trump and stuff. And
yeah, I know. He's being
a crazy guy.
He's crazy. And there's some. He's funny. He's very funny. You know why he doesn't like Daniel Cormier? Why? Because he feels Daniel Cormier disrespected Popeye's chicken in his Popeye's. He's like, can't disrespect Popeye's chicken. It's hilarious.
You can't.
But again, the heavyweight division right now is going through what the 155 did. It's lacking some talent.
It is very much so.
So
why did they not give Stipe the?
He's probably suspended.
Stipe?
No, because you get knocked out, you have to take some time off.
Oh yeah.
You you have a mandatory suspension of 6 months, and sometimes longer if you need it. And also, he probably wants to spend some time with his kids or retool his game too. You don't want to jump from fight to
time with them. Have you seen his kids?
No. What was wrong with his kids?
They're just brats. They're from Ohio. So he's
your brother-in-law is not going to be happy. He's going to tell Stipe that. And
he actually mentioned something. I don't remember saying this, but he sent me a text the other day. He said I was talking about wrestling and how wrestlers are weak. And I don't remember saying that, but he says I did, and it was recorded, so I must have said it.
No, but
I
you
apologize.
joke. No, but you joke around a lot. Like you make sarcastic comments a lot.
Yeah.
Like
I would never try to fight him at all. My gosh, he hasn't wrestled in probably 15 years, but he would destroy me in 10 seconds.
You have that. Your brother-in-law is he's a really cool dude, and I was so glad to meet him. And you could tell that he spent a lot of time wrestling, and I kind of have it too, but not as much as he does. But when you spend years grappling, even if you don't actually do anything, your muscles kind of stay that way, and you could just tell that he's one strong dude. Like that guy is just strong. It's like that old guy. Gritty, grimy Charlton Heston strength, Planet of the Apes strength.
Ever moving to the country and woodworking and stuff, he's getting more and more.
Oh, he's woodworking now.
Yeah, he builds tables and stuff. I mean, that's like a hobby.
Oh, it's a hobby. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him to build tables for the studio.
I saw you looking at that knife.
I'm not getting tasted today. We're going double nothing.
Holy shit. Oh, okay. All right.
I guess we're
You
done.
had to see it. See, you wanted to see it.
All right.
It wasn't so bad, right? It wasn't so bad, right?
No, it wasn't that
No,
bad.
actually, you got the
That's
point.
enough.
No, it's not.
That's enough.
Nice meeting you.
Thanks, Caleb.
No, this part's not so hard. It's this one.
Yeah, I felt it.
You felt it?
Yeah, I felt
I
it.
missed the first time.
It smells like burning hair now.
Yeah. Here, now you do it to me.
I don't want to.
No, I lost a bet. We said we did. Yeah.
How do you turn it up?
You just push
I'm
the button.
kidding.
Yeah. Ah, fuck! You really got me though.
Sorry. Okay. Take the battery out.
Is that on air?
Yeah.
Oh no, because okay, right.
Yeah, we are.
All right.
Everybody's been recording. We're good.
All right.
Where were we? Sorry to interrupt.
I thought I'd get you by surprise there.
You did. And it surprised me. So Cormier and Lewis, obviously Cormier is going to take that.
Oh my God, it's going to.
Does Lewis have any chance at all? Like if he spends the next 2 months?
None.
There's not enough time. It's November, right?
You could give him 10 years, he'll never beat Cormier. No, it's just the truth. It's just he's not that skilled, and he just has.
Is it a championship? It's got
yeah. He's just got to give him power. That's all.
Did Cormier have to defend the heavyweight title? Like, right? Is that why he has to do a fight right now? Because why is he not fighting Jones?
No, I think Cormier, as I understand it, I'm not sure, but he stepped in because somebody canceled.
Okay.
So he was just trying to save the show. So he just did a cool thing for the UFC.
But he's getting the light heavyweight championship stripped. And the Jones Justice fight is going to be for the championship.
No, really?
That's what I read.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
No
99%
kidding.
sure that
Oh, well, because he hasn't defended in a while. So,
yeah,
okay.
Cormier's defending the heavyweight championship, and then whoever wins because Jones was
The champ, right.
was the champ. He should be the champ because he didn't cheat.
lose, right.
Yeah. So they're going to unify the belt,
And then probably Cormier will go back down and wait and fight him again. Yeah, no, that sounds fair, I guess.
and then they'll go back and forth and just keep getting bigger and smaller and fight heavyweight and light heavyweight for the next 10 years.
I think I would like to see. I would like to say Stipe fight Cormier again.
Yeah.
So I think he took him by surprise. That was a good fight. I mean, Stipe lost, but it was a good fight. It was interesting, and it kind of brings me back to what I was saying before. There was this Stephen Kesting has this podcast called The Strenuous Life, and he's amazing. And I recommend everybody to listen to that podcast. It's a fantastic podcast. But he had a person on called Ian Abernathy, who's from the traditional karate world. And, they were kind of discussing traditional karate and stuff like that. And, obviously as a traditional karate guy, he's not watching MMA or anything like that. And what most people do who really talk about self-defense, because most people who do not follow MMA go into either the performance world or, the meditative world, or they go into the self-defense world. They're like, well, MMA is not the street. Mm-hmm. Streets, there's no glass on the floor and there's whatever, dude. First of all, actually, being the psychopath that I am, I have actually rolled with. I've actually sparred on like street where we knew there's broken glass and
was
stuff
that
like
in
that.
Japan?
No, that was here. It was here.
Okay.
It was in Flushing, Queens.
Oh,
not Flushing. It was actually a little further back. It was like Auburndale area. But
it's hard to find a place in Queens that doesn't
it's a
have
parking
glass
lot with tons of glass, and I'm like, all right, well, we'll just fight here and see what happens, and nothing changes.
Yeah,
it's like it's just an experiment to make sure what you do works, and the only way you really know is if you do it. But so a lot of what self-defense people say is that fighting a technical opponent is so different than fighting a street fighter. And this is what Ian Abernathy said. And also someone came in from the combatives world in my academy, said, and they said, oh, well, nobody on the fight's going to throw a Superman punch. So like learning to defend a Superman punch is not real fighting. So when you're fighting a technical guy, it's like totally different from actual fighting. It's just, which is the biggest hunk of steaming horse manure I've ever heard. It's like, so suddenly the rules of combat are just totally different the minute you put a 8-sided fence around people. Mm-hmm. Just completely different. So if we took out the 8-sided fence and put an alleyway, suddenly Stipe and whoever else or whatever else, there's suddenly a different fight.
Yeah.
No, it's not. The difference is this. And for example, look at Derek Lewis, Derek Lewis, right? Derek Lewis is a street fighter. That's what he is. He's a big guy with power. Mm-hmm. Okay, what is you look at so many guys that basically the same moves you see on the street, you see in MMA. You just see them better. Mm-hmm. So what did George St. Pierre and what did Khabib win with? They won with a jab. Mm-hmm. So if a guy's trying to punch me wild on the street, you know what I'm going to try to beat him with? A jab. That's what I'm going to throw first. I'm going to throw a jab, pop, pop. And then I'm going to use that jab to shoot in on him or throw my 1-2. The best combination in any fighting sport, street, is the old 1-2, jab cross. And every single fighter who trains knows you're throwing your jab cross over and over. What you're doing is you're taking the fundamentals and you're making them much more refined. And let me tell you, if you were in a street fight, Matt, would you like to be on the level of refinement a 1 or a 10?
A 12.
A 12, right.
Yeah, I want
right.
to be the highest.
Right. And if you're in an MMA fight, you want to be a 12. And in a street fight, you'd rather be a 12.
Sure.
So maybe it would work if you're a 2, but wouldn't you rather be a 12?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Because, and let me tell you, you actually need to be a 12. Not only do you want to be, because let me tell you, everybody's definition of a street fight is retarded because they're not thinking logically. First of all, you know what actually some of the most common street fight thing is? It's actually date rape. Because we're thinking from gay male perspective. You know what's more common? You're a girl, because let's not think about just guys. You're a girl, you were at a college, and Mr. Kavanaugh or something just starts pawing on you and, sexually assault you. That's actually more common than, 2 guys doing their freaking ape, monkey dance for honor. What most guys think of as a street fight is not a street fight. They think of a situation where they're going to look like an idiot in front of their peers. That's what they're thinking. Like they're thinking of the school football field after 5 o'clock when classes got out, and Biff talks shit to you in the hallway, and I'll meet you after school. Mm-hmm. That's not self-defense. That's not a street fight. That's ego defense. That's what everybody thinks. They're like, oh, I'm going to be embarrassed. That's not what we're talking about here. When you look at statistics, most of the time people are assaulted from behind. The assassination pattern, which, Eugene Lin talked about. They just jump you from behind or 2-on-1. And if you're not a 12, if you're not incredibly efficient at what you do, you're just toast. The other thing is most actual assaults involve a weapon. And weapon combat is incredibly fast. If somebody's swinging a knife at you and they're not even trained, but that knife is fast, that's going to be fast. You better be fast. And if you think you're going to get through that life or death scenario being on the scale of refinement a 4 or 2 or 3 and not a 12, you're as full of shit as Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
The other thing is if you can't grapple, you can't fight.
Yeah.
Because most self-defense encounters involve a guy on guy, gender equivalent male on male violence involve a weapon. That's true. That's a statistic fact. Look at it on Justice Department. Mm-hmm. Weapon combat way outweighs guys trying to box each other. Yeah. So if you're not grappling, which is the best way to deal with the knife, if you're not stand-up grappling, I'm not talking wrestling, I'm not talking jiu-jitsu only, I'm talking stand-up grappling, clinch grappling. If you're not clinch grappling and hand fighting and also working your footwork and angling all the time, you are not preparing yourself for combat. Mm-hmm. And but you know what you do? That's MMA right there. That is MMA. And you know who said that all the time? He didn't say the use MMA, but Bruce Lee said that. If we have to make the divisions between classical styles go away. And he's like, in a real fight, most of these people are playing. They're not learning how to fight. They're learning how to play. Mm. So, there's no difference between the technique that you on offense want to use in MMA and what you want to use in a street fight. In terms of, how you use it is a little different, but you're going to use a jab, you're going to use takedowns, you're going to use chokes, and you're going to use throws. Now, obviously, when you're dealing with knives, it's a little different, but if you are used to hand fighting in the clinch, then you're going to be able to defend a knife. And you see this taser knife that I tased you with just now? Well, I just used it yesterday grappling with my students when they're trying to stab me. And you know what I'd use? I used wrestling hand fighting. When I talk about striking with my students and they just want to stand up in front of guys and brawl, I'm like, don't do that. Imagine he has a knife in his hand. Move around, stick and weave and bob and move. That's how you avoid a weapon if you can't grapple right away. Mm-hmm. Kick his kneecap, move around. And we're doing unarmed versus armed. But that's the way you're going to fight if a guy has a weapon too. Sure. And it's also the smart way to fight when you're fighting a striker who's really good and fast. And it's what Khabib did. You stick that jab and you clinch, right? Obviously, I'm not going to jab a guy with a knife right away. What I'm going to do is try to isolate the knife. But we take the tools from MMA and we just remix them. We shake them around a little bit for each context. But the thing about MMA is it refines each of those tools. Completely refines them, make you at a 12 level of refinement. Okay? The way guys shoot doubles and singles in the UFC is very, very, very high level. If I'm on the street, I want that level of double and single.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm fighting 2-on-1 people or the guy has a baseball bat. I want to finish that fight fast. Yeah. Or Or the other thing I'm talking about, say a guy sucker punched me and I'm bleeding and I have a cracked skull and I'm on my knees. I better be a 12 in efficiency because it's the only way I'm going to be able to win this fight at 20% strength. Because he assaulted me when I wasn't aware. I'm down. I'm not at 100%. I'm down. I'm really struggling to survive. If my technique is not like Kevin Lee, remember Kevin Lee, where Barbosa kicked him with the wheel kick in the face and just sent him onto, brought his teeth to Ohio, and then what did he do? He's on wobble legs, he's on jello legs, and he shoots a double and takes the guy down.
Yeah.
How do you do that? You do it because you're super efficient. That's the kind of technique you have to do to survive an assault. Okay?
Prepared for the worst?
Yeah, prepare for the absolute worst.
Yeah.
And if you're not, you're full of shit.
Do you guys at Radical? Do you guys train gun defense?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a bunch of LEOs, and right now we have a room in the back upstairs. We're trying to pad it up because we train with airsoft.
Little plastic pellets.
Yeah, right, exactly. And they go everywhere. So the one time I really did it was like a nightmare to clean up, which sounds silly, but it's really not when you have to clean up 800 pellets.
Sure.
And then you're stepping on them for like 3 days straight. So we're going to tackle up to make the room, tack the room eventually and do the airsoft there. Right now we just use the rubber guns, which is not realistic, but we use rubber guns. But only a few of my students are really, really able to do that. What I usually do is work only with the law enforcement officers, right, for that one, or the super high level guys. The only high level guys right now who are ready to do that are all getting focused on MMA fights. So we're a little bit more fight specific. G has a fight in a few weeks. Another guy coming up has a fight. So we're a little bit more fight specific. But it's part of your ranking to be ranked on my system to know these defensive tactics for weapons. But if you're not in close quarter combat range and you're facing a gun, you have no chance of winning. Like if the guy's like 6 feet away from you and taking a bead on you, you got to just run. Yeah. You can't charge the guy. Not saying you can't, but it's really hard. And that's not the best. What he is the guy puts the gun to your face or something like that and is trying to take you somewhere. Then you have some chance. Obviously not a lot. But there's a person in our community who woke up with a gun pointed at his head and said, I'm going to kill your entire family unless you empty all your bank accounts and give me every single title, to your cars, keys, and everything right now. And he had a gun to his head, and another guy had a gun to his wife's head. He woke up in his bed like that. That's kind of what we're talking about here. And he survived that encounter and managed to take those guys down. So and Brandon Vera was actually present. The MMA fighter was there in the house at the time. So it's a legitimate, true story.
That's the wrong house to
no kidding
to attack.
No kidding, right? But you think even then you get the drop on a guy when you sneak into his house and put a gun to his head. But you'd be surprised. That's what we're dealing with now. Do you have that speed? No. Did you train that speed over and over again to beat the pull on that trigger? If you're not training to be that 12, that trigger will beat you. That knife slash will beat you. You've got to be fast, right? And also you have to be efficient, not just fast in your raw speed, but your efficiency of technique, And so training in the MMA paradigm is the best way to get it because you're training against the best guys who are doing the best, and they're not always like a good example is Lewis. Lewis is not technical, but he's fast and strong. That is the kind of energy you're going to get in a street fight. He's just an uber street fighter.
Yeah, he's great in 1 minute.
Right. But he's a street fighter. He's a street fighter. You know who else is a street fighter? Kind of Romero. I mean, he's like we talked about. He's like a combatives guy. It's like he explodes on you really fast. So if you can deal with an energy like that, you can deal with anybody on the street who's not, who's trying to assault you unarmed.
I got a question about how to defend against somebody on the street. How do you stop somebody that is playing music on their phone really loud?
No, it's funny. You're making a joke, right? But it's kind of true. It's like we live in a time where our narcissism, and so I thought about this yesterday because I was in a cab and this guy on a motorcycle, has speakers attached to his motorcycle, blasting music down the street with no regard for other people's, space. And it's kind of like an American thing where we're going to do what the fuck we want to do and fuck all of you, And it's part of our narcissistic culture that we've developed over the last 20 years. It's like started in the 80s. I mean, there's a little before that, but really it's worse since the 80s where suddenly there are people we don't care about anybody else but ourselves. And it's a very troubling thing. And, I think that's also part of what makes Conor McGregor so charismatic is like, I don't give a shit about you. I don't give a shit about, I'm just here for myself. And all these guys that are super narcissists, it appeals to something that's very modern in our American culture. I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm not that old. I'm not young, but I'm not that old, but I can't remember what it was like in the 60s or 50s or 40s. But I really feel that it's worse now, that crazy narcissism, and where you're on a train and somebody's just kind of like ruining your space. Honestly, with the level of toxicity in our human interactions, I would say a lot of times you ask people to turn the music down and then they're like, fuck you, motherfucker. And then you just have bad days. So what I do is I look at the guy, and I've had this experience. I look at the guy. And it's like, hey, dude, you ask Biley, would you mind, lowering the music? And you just say it really nicely. And if he doesn't, just walk away. It's not worth it for me to ruin my day and also possibly get into an altercation where I actually hurt someone, and I'm not here to prove anything either. That's not ego defense. Like a lot of guys be like, what, you're not gonna punch his face in? You guys, you're 40 years of martial art training. Why should you put up with this shit? Well, what do I have to prove? Why do I have to do this thing now? But it's an issue that we are so disrespectful to other people's space, and especially here in New York, there's a level of toxicity in our human interactions which is very worrisome, and a level of narcissism and me culture, and I don't know the answer to that. And I know a lot of self-defense altercations started with issues like that. I was almost involved in one. I was on a train, and there was a woman who asked these two people to turn the music down. And they started cursing her out intensely, incredibly aggressively, and being incredibly intimidating towards her. And this was a late 40s woman. So it became a situation where I kind of had to like step in a little bit, and nothing happened eventually. But it started with the simple request of turning the music down, and that can escalate very quickly. So you have to, before you say something, obviously you could say it nicely, hey, do you mind lowering it? And if they don't, I guess we appeal to the trained people. But it's an issue when it comes to all of us getting along, and I don't have an answer to that. I don't have an answer. My first answer is to kill them with kindness, and that was the answer of Funakoshi Gichin, who is the founder of karate. He's like, there's a famous story of him encountering a drunk ruffian in Tokyo who was, and we think of Tokyo as very sanitized right now, but 100 years ago, Tokyo was rougher, had rough points like New York, and Funakoshi did not live in a nice area because he was a country bumpkin who moved to the big city, and he was dealing with this incredible ruffian who wanted to get in his face and yelling at him and this and that, and he starts talking to him like a human being, and he's like, hey, I forget exactly how the story was, but he's like, do you want to go get a drink? And the guy's like, what? He's like, yeah, let me go treat you a drink. And at that time, they would have drinks on outside stalls. And, he kind of bought him a drink. And then the guy starts crying and says, apologize for being so, like that, right? I don't know the veracity of the story.
Diffuse the situation.
Yeah, he diffused the situation. And Funakoshi's idea is like, I can kill someone with my hands. So that is a huge responsibility. Also, why would you want to get violent in a situation just because you're listening to someone's music? Yes, it's annoying. Yes, we're in a place where there's this toxicity of culture. But how do you deal with that? These people in your face. And personally, I had an experience where I was walking with a friend of mine. She was not anybody I was romantically involved with at all. She's my friend's girlfriend, but she's also a very attractive girl. And I was happy to be walking with her, and we were walking in Queens, and this guy started just saying the most disgusting stuff I've ever heard to her. Like, oh my God, just awful. Mm-hmm. You know how it is. And I'm sitting there, and he thinks I'm her girlfriend, her boyfriend, right? Which I'm not. No relationship with her. We're just friends, right? But she's my friend. And he's just, the stuff he said, I cannot repeat. I can't physically, it makes me ill to think about what he said. It's so disgusting. And also, I'm part Latino, and he was Latino. And it just, there was this thing like, oh, you make our people look so bad. Like, why? Like that kind of thing that just hits you. And I got so mad. And the guy's like, what's she doing with the loser? Like, man, I was about to fucking kill this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm, and then she's like, calm down. This guy's just a loser. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. You're right. She's like, and I'm like, and the thing is, we think we get it. Girls get this all the time. Mm-hmm. You think guys get it. It's like our dignity. Women have to walk around by, like construction workers whistling them, making lewd comments. And, they're not whipping out 45s and shooting people. Yeah, there's a mature way to deal with this. And she taught me that. She taught me in that moment. She was more martial artist than I was. She said, chill. We win by going out and having a good time. And we had some food, and that's a fun time. And I was like, wow, this is a learning moment. I was about to kill this guy. And I would have really hurt him. Like I'm trained. At the point, I was fighting too. Mm-hmm. I would have really hurt him. And I was so angry and out of control. And she said, just don't. And it wasn't that he said it to me, because if he'd said it to me, I'd be like, whatever. Yeah. He said it to this girl. It's like hit this thing in my brain,
Changes it.
Yeah, it changes it, right. But it doesn't. It doesn't. You have no right to hit someone. This goes back to Khabib. You have no right to hit someone for just saying bullshit. That being said, it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant. Yeah. But Khabib's father said it. He's like, when Khabib gets home, I'm going to give him more sanction than the UFC's ever going to give him. And he's like, we don't act like this. It's an honor sport. It's a sport of honor. And his dad was not happy with him, because his dad is a real martial artist, who gets it. And I'm trying to be like Khabib's dad, Obviously, he's an older gentleman who gets it. And also grew up in a very hard world, like nothing like us. I mean, that culture over there, that's a hard culture, and you're judged on your personal honor, if you don't stand up for what you believe, But it's I have no answer to these, but I'm never going to answer with violence towards someone just talking at me, or playing music, or something like that. And so I know you asked the question slightly facetiously, but it's a big deal, because that's kind of how violence starts, especially here in New York City. People get in your space, and you're on the train, you're all packed, and one guy's like, oh, watch your elbow. Fuck you, motherfucker. Well, fuck you, and then and suddenly somebody's hurt. Yeah. And that starts from the ego defense. It is not self-defense. But then it instantly becomes self-defense. The guy hits you. Mm-hmm. But you don't want to back down, because you're like, I'm not going to back down to you, motherfucker. Like, it's like your insecurities have to be defended. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I'm a big passive-aggressive guy. You play music over there, I'm going to play music over here, and it's going to be annoing, like, music you'll hear in a merry-go-round.
I think that's awesome. I think you should play like what's that Canadian singer?
Drake?
No, the girl, the Titanic singer.
Oh, Celine Dion.
So yeah, you should just go next and play Celine Dion. That's great. I think, honestly, I think that's a great way to do it. Just do it back to him. Yeah, but then we'll have a subway of like dueling music.
Yeah, right. It's gonna get out of hand. I was on the train this morning, and there was a lot of eye rolls to some guy that brought his dog on the train that was not small and didn't fit in a bag. Oh. People were mad at that guy. But nobody said anything.
Yeah, it's also. Moved away. It's not illegal to bring a dog.
Well,
right? Yeah.
It's against the rules.
Oh, really? Is it?
It has to fit in a bag.
Oh.
So I've seen people like cut holes in the bottom of the bag and put like a German Shepherd in it. It's in a bag. But,
that's funny. Well, it's so funny that New Yorkers love to push and break the rules. Yeah, and that's a problem. And I'm not saying Japan is. I'm not saying Japan is heaven. There's a lot of things wrong with Japan, but that just doesn't happen in Japan. Like, people are more respectful of other people, and that's a problem. Is that we lose respect for each other. We're so narcissistic and so caught up. And I'm no different. Look, I'm American, and sometimes I get in my own little world. We're so caught up that we don't treat others with the respect they deserve.
Well, where does that go? Yeah. Like, if I'm a Japanese person, and I'm going throughout my day, and I'm being super respectful to everybody. I'm being really like humble and opening the door for people and saying please and thank you and all that stuff. Where does that eventually go? Like, there's got to be an outlet.
Yeah, they get drunk on Friday night. And
Yeah, okay.
On Friday night,
the steam valve can
yeah. Oh,
burst.
yeah, it just bursts. That's You're right. Actually, on Friday night, we used to have to call it jumping over the street pizza, because at every subway terminal there'd be these puddles of vomit where the Japanese businessmen would just get so wasted and just puke on it, like over and over again. It would just be the Friday night is the night where they just drink and like go to town.
Right.
But I don't think that's healthy either. But you get, because your politeness can't. I don't know if it has to be forced, because that's what it feels sometimes in Japan. Like they're forced to do it. And I'm not Japanese, so I don't want to speak for a Japanese person. I can only speak for what I felt there, but it would be interesting to feel someone from Japan and their point of view. But it's so interesting to live in the Japanese culture where everybody's treating you, even if they don't like you, they'll treat you with a certain amount of respect and deference just because you're a human being. And it's kind of a cool thing. But then again, you're right. When it's pushed on you to act a certain way, you push the other way. Yeah. And there's a steam valve that explodes too.
Why do they censor their porn? I never got an answer to that.
I don't know. I have no idea, Matt.
I'm asking you the hard questions today. I've never been to Japan.
No, okay. Actually, I do have the answer to that.
You do have the answer?
I do have the answer to that.
Should we have it off air? Is that?
No, I'll have it on air. So this is what I think the answer is, and I believe someone told me this, is that Japanese are generally have less body hair than Caucasians.
Did not know that. But okay.
Yeah, Japanese generally tend to have less body hair, just especially body hair. So body hair is not – exposure of body hair is something that is a little bit more like my arm right here is – I guess people can't see it, but I have a lot of hair on my forearms. Like there's very few Japanese people with that. And if they do, they're like, oh, my God, this guy's so hairy. It's like a big deal. There's a sumo wrestler.
I hate Robin Williams. Jeez.
Robin Williams?
Yeah. He's very hairy.
Oh, no,
like
but he's white. So, yeah, he's white. So it doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
okay.
It's like, yeah. So, they, when they, part of the porn rules, as I understand it, is, to stop lasciviousness. So body hair exposure is a slight expression of lasciviousness. So that is why the hair is actually what's blacked out.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, it's as I understand it, and it was explained to me sometime because we were talking about like different values. Because somebody asked me a similar question, this is when I was in Japan. It's like, why is Japanese entertainment, not just pornography, but all entertainment, very extreme and weird and kind of bizarre in some ways, and yet there's certain things that they would never do, like show penetration. And so it's kind of interesting. What I find is this, and is that whenever you see what seems paradoxical to us, you're entering the mentality of that culture. So, for example, Japanese are very polite, but when someone sneezes, they don't say anything. Like, they don't say God bless you. So you're like, what is going on here? Why don't they say God bless you? Well, then if you actually think about it, what's the origin of God bless you? It's actually from the plague, because if you started sneezing, you're probably going to die. This is going, 15th century England. Mm-hmm. So they're like trying to give you your last rites. So it's very rooted, that God bless you is very rooted into our Judeo-Christian culture. So then you're like, oh, well, obviously they never had plague, because they didn't have much mosquitoes and plague, and it wasn't tempered. So they don't have that Judeo-Christian culture either, and that blessing and their last rites. So that's why they don't do that. Oh, that's interesting. So what seems paradoxical to us is like a learning moment to re-examine who we are and who they are, and step out of your own assumptions. So, what we feel is right is not always right in other cultures. What we feel is lascivious and pornographic can be nothing to other cultures. Like in Japan, they have this enormous festival that's the penis deity festival. I don't know if you've heard of it. Where they walk around with enormous penises all over the place. But it's a fertility festival. Yeah. It's nothing pornographic, but for people like, oh my God, this is crazy. Yeah. So it's a time to examine your way of looking at the world. And one of the things that I loved about living in Japan was it's a moment of reflection of your own values. Like, why do I think this way? Why is this way? Is this the right way to live? I don't think so. I don't know. And when I came back from Japan, I changed the way I thought about the world and adopted some Japanese values that I felt were really a better way to live for me.
Is that why you never say God bless you when I sneeze?
That's because I want you to die, Matt.
Oh, okay.
And you know what else is interesting is that I adopted the Japanese sadism. Japanese is a very sadistic culture.
Yeah.
I was actually a very nice person before I went to Japan. And when I arrived to Japan, they have all these TV shows where people are like victims of practical jokes and all that. And I'd be like, oh my God, that's horrible. How is that so mean? And then 6 years later, I'm like, look at that guy suffer.
There was one, I watched a Japanese game show and it was, I don't know, I didn't understand anything they were saying, but the person walks into an elevator and then the floor drops out.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
It's terrible and hilarious.
But it's terrifying.
It's terrible. And it's like some of these things are really not scripted. You know that they have these practical jokes went really far in the 90s, and unfortunately, one Chinese actor who was visiting, he was trying to make it in Japan, but he was a Chinese star. He went on to these shows, and they did the practical. He fell and hit his head and died. It was terrible. God. It was terrible. And then, but the scene that I didn't see it, but somebody saw me like he falls and his head was live, right? And they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, right.
And it was like suddenly silence, and the TV comes off, and then he was dead. But they're not scripted. Some are. I'm sure some are, but a lot of them are really, really true. One of my favorite ones is it's just terrible. It's so bad. It's so funny. They take a boyfriend and a girlfriend, right? And they ask girlfriend, do you think your boyfriend is like is faithful to you, right? And she's like, I don't know. Okay, we'll test that. So they take this really, really pretty girl, and they insert him in his life, and the whole time they're filming him, and she'll be like, oh, do you have a boyfriend? I mean, do you have a girlfriend? And he'll be like, no. And he does,
God.
And like, you want to go out tonight? And he's like, and then he'll say, yeah. And then right as he'll say, they'll tell the girlfriend who's watching the whole thing to call him and say, what are you doing? And he'll have to lie. He's like, I'm at home watching TV. And
my God.
And they
ruining lives.
Right. They filmed the whole thing. And then right when they're gonna, like at the end of the date, when the plant girl's gonna, have sex with the guy, the girlfriend walks in and then she films she shows all this, she saw the whole thing. It's just terrible.
Wow.
And you're just squirming watching it.
I can't watch that.
And it is so sadistic and hilarious at the same time. But you're like, because the guy deserves it too.
Sure. There wouldn't be a show if he said, yes, I have a girlfriend, but
No, and actually, I think a few of them did that, though. Yeah. And they're like, oh, and they showed it too. But
well, I saw another one that we're going down a rabbit hole. It was. I think it was. I have no idea what it's called, but I know the premise of the show. It was. They put people in a room, and there's lots of items in the room, and some of them are made of chocolate, and some of them are not.
And they're made of like wasabi or something, right?
No, it's like a doorknob. It's either a doorknob or it's chocolate, and you can't use your hands. You have to use your mouth to figure out which is chocolate.
God, that's weird.
So they have to go around and bite a doorknob, and sometimes it'll be chocolate, and sometimes it'll be a doorknob.
That's actually pretty tame for.
It's very tame. Like it's no longer. We're not ruining any lives here.
You might ruin some teeth.
Maybe there's stuff in the chocolate, or I don't know. I didn't watch the whole thing.
In a personal level, there's a lot of times we had this where they'd order a huge sushi plate. And it's like, 20 pieces of 30 pieces of sushi. And one of them is like filled to the brim with like chunks of wasabi.
Yeah.
And nobody knows which one it is. And we're all eating. And then you hear, and everybody laughs. And it's like a thing that Japanese do. It's part of their culture.
It's a way to release the pressure.
Exactly. Way to release pressure. And it's also, I believe, a remnant of their military culture. Mm-hmm. Because all military culture has a certain element of hazing. And hazing taken too far is not good. But hazing, to a certain extent, toughens you up. Like your older brother kind of, hey, Matt, come on, let's toughen you up. And it is a way to kind of toughen you up. And Japan is the only country to go immediately from feudalism into the modern era. It's the only country that went straight from, feudalism and a military feudal dictatorship. I mean, basically, knights of the, the feudalism of the 12th century, 13th century ends, and then we have the, Renaissance, the Enlightenment, Industrial Revolution, modern era. Japan went straight from feudalism and a very, very, very strict form of feudalism and a warrior culture, a very Spartan warrior culture, right into the modern era. So they retain some of these elements of warrior culture is why we laud them so much. They retain some of these warrior culture elements in their modern society. And some of them are very laudable, and taken too far, they're terrible. because the absolute annihilation and destruction of your enemy with no mercy, which is, what the Japanese did in World War II. Not laudable, but, making your kids develop some grit. Like, a lot of Japanese, especially in the winter, they have this thing. It depends on the region, but I know in one region, they have all the kids stripped to like little bathing suits in the morning in the snow, and they run to school. And we're talking like 4-year-old kids. But the whole town does it. And they run to toughen the kids up. And nobody gets hurt, nobody dies, but they toughen the kids up. And that would never fly here. But in Japan, it's like, hey man, we gotta get a little tough. And I think that's a good thing. Sure. Not being soft. And that's actually dying out in Japan too. They're becoming much more American. But when I was there was always a certain element of, man, you gotta toughen up a little bit. And you gotta also exercise self-control. And I think hazing is something similar to that. When I tease you so much, you just get a thick skin. And so there's some elements of that are kind of cool. But then there's some that are also just kind of like sadistic and bad. Yeah. But that's my experience with that, and my multicultural experience. But it comes down to the fact that we respect these values of self-control, and but at the end of the day, you have to decide what your personal values are. I know personally through my journey through different cultures and countries and training in many places, I've piecemealed the way that I feel that I want to live my life and the way I'm going to respond to provocation and anger. And I guess everybody has to answer that too, And Hickson Gracie has a great quote. He says, "I'm not here to tell you what to do. You have to have your own personal code of honor and follow that. I know what my code is, And if somebody says something about my daddy, then it's going to be a problem. That's his personal code of honor. I don't agree with it. I respect Hickson Gracie a lot, but that's his personal code. Well, that's my personal code. Yeah.
Find your line.
Find your line. Exactly. Find your line. But I just don't believe that you should respond to anything other than violence with violence. Now, if you touch me, man, all bets are off, man.
I'm never touching you.
You can touch me anytime you want, Matt.
Oh my God! But you can't meet. You have to meet the level with the same level.
Right.
Or you're escalating, and then you're in the wrong.
Right. Yeah. Well, I have no problem escalating to a certain extent.
I'm sure you
but like because it'll be the element of life preservation.
Yeah. If you're defending yourself, of course, go balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Grab whatever you can.
Yeah.
Were you surprised that Chael Sonnen lost?
No.
Okay. We won't spend too much time.
But I was surprised how fast he lost.
Yeah.
And Fedor, I gotta give the guy credit. He still had some game.
What is he, like 60 years old?
No, he's not that old, but he's old. Yeah, he's in his 40s. He's about my age, a little younger, and he's a little younger than me. But he's still the guy. Old man strength. Don't sleep on it. And Chael Sonnen's like, I don't even know if he's training.
I doubt it. Yeah.
But it was a game. It was a fight. It was actually more entertaining than I thought it would be. All and right. Yes, I did watch Bellator. And the rest of that card was freaking awful. It was just terrible. Oh my God, it was terrible.
Ferguson, great fight. We didn't talk too much about the undercard.
You know what? I'm going to ruin it. Let's save that for another conversation.
Okay.
I don't think it was a great fight.
No.
It was an exciting fight.
Yeah.
It was very exciting, but it was not it was not TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt. It was not Dominic Cruz, DJ. It was less technical and more tough man. Again, it's like that's the way street fights can work. Now they were technical, but there should have been. I was sitting with some people with Professor Ken, and we're just looking there, and we're like, why just sitting in the pocket and trading? That's not smart. But they were good. They were very, very good. But they were in a contest of wills rather than a contest of technique. Yeah. And I like to see more contest of technique.
Yeah, you like the technique.
Yeah.
I like the violence.
Yeah, no. But very exciting fight. No question.
Yeah.
That capoeira kick, the one hand capoeira kick was pretty cool.
And
when he went on one hand and kicked him?
Yeah.
That was actually pretty cool.
And then Michelle.
Oh, good fight.
Karate hottie.
And Ardley Lee, there's a premier fight with another girl fight where the girl was really tight. She got on the girl's back. And, oh my God. Ardley Lee, Ashley, I forgot her name. But no, Michelle Waterson looked sharp as a knife, man.
Did a good job.
That was a good fight.
So it was a good main event.
No, great card too.
Good fight card.
Yeah. There was a lot of good fights on that card.
Yeah.
A lot of good fights.
Especially the one between the Khabib and
yes, and what's his name? That Irish dude.
Fucking what's his name?
I don't know. He's already washed up. We'll never hear from him again. Yeah.
Vince McMahon's calling. So we got a good. End of
I
the
heard
year.
he owns a distillery now.
Oh yeah, well, of course he does. We got a good end of the year coming up. We have to get through the Cormier fight. That's going to be embarrassing. But then we're going to end it with John Jones.
Yeah, you know what? You know what'd be crazy if Lewis actually knocked Cormier out. That would be crazy.
He has the power.
Of course, he has.
If he makes the connection.
No, you know what? That's why you can't sit and trade with people.
Isn't the next UFC in Madison Square Garden, right?
Yeah, there's one coming up in Madison Square Garden, a big one. Yeah.
UFC, it's
2:30?
2:30, yeah. Cormier.
Yeah.
Gotta get tickets.
You gonna go?
If I can afford it.
Yeah, I never go to live events. I don't enjoy it too much. It's too much, beer swinging,
I'm gonna see who else is on the fight. Do you know who else is on the...
No, I forgot. I looked it up like 3-4 days ago, and then I just kind of scrolled over it.
Rockhold Weidman.
Oh my God, that's a great fight. Oh wow, that's a really good fight. And they're training partners too, so they train together a lot.
So just be happy. I like people when they hate each other. Souza Branch.
Oh yes, David Branch and okay, that's a great fight. Wow, yeah, David Branch, my old time training partner.
Derek Brunson, Israel Adesanya.
Oh my God, that's a good one too. Wow, that's a great card. Oh my God, that's stacked.
All right, I'll watch it. That's it.
We've
caught up.
Yeah.
We're ready to go. We'll talk about Ferguson next week and do a full breakdown if you'd like. Thank you everybody for listening. And I did get a tase today.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Tased and confused.
The battery is out now. So I saw him reaching for it. He's like, I'm going to tase him again. Before I leave, he's putting the battery back in.
So, but, you did win one bet with me. So,
I tased you too.
No, but you got to do it on air.
I got to tase you on air?
Yeah. I got to eat it. All right, go ahead. Oh, Jesus. Oh, man.
That is dangerous. I got to get one of those. How do I get? Do I need a license to get one of those?
Oh my God!
Yeah, we got to air out the studio. It smells like burnt hair. Are we betting on? We're not betting on the Cormier fight.
Yeah, let's bet on it.
That's on the Cormier.
Yeah, let's. Okay, first round finish, second round finish, third round finish. I say second round finish. Third? No, you know what? I say third round finish.
I'll say first.
You say first. Yeah. All right, I'll probably lose this one.
Are we going to bet on how it's finished? No, I don't want to.
I believe second or third round finish. You say first.
I'll say first.
Oh man. That really burnt my skin.
You do have a sadistic side. You like being...
Hey, check this smell.
I'm not smelling your arm. I can smell it from here.
It's like really burnt.
All right. Please share the show. Tell your friends if you want them to enjoy the screams of Renee and myself. Let's figure out what we're going to... Do you have any other weapons? You bring one of the airsoft guns. We'll shoot each other. That doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't really hurt. But you got to wear goggles. You got to be careful.
All right. Do you have any other weapons?
A lot, actually.
Okay. Maybe we'll do an on-site. I'll come there and you can attack me.
I'm patenting a self-defense tool for people to feel safe. I can't talk too much about it, but...
That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But I could bring it in and hit you with it. Nobody can see what it actually is.
I attack you, right? And then you defend yourself with this tool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. You can have that. You can have the taser knife and attack
boy.
Me. Yeah. Because that's the whole idea. It's to be defend against...
not big enough.
To defend against knife assaults.
I fight dirty. You don't have enough hair. I like to pull hair.
I'll wear a wig.
Okay. All right, this is getting off the rails. Thanks for listening. Share, subscribe, review, rate, and tell your friends. See you next week.
Bye-bye.